Good morning. It's, what day is it today? 21st, and I did get out for my hike this morning. Put my backpack on, got 14 kilos in it, which is not quite enough. It needs to be 16, I think. It's kind of the standard for carrying 35 pounds. I can't remember what that translates out to. But anyway, that's kind of the standard. You should be able to carry a 35-pound pack for 6 hours is the test thing, and everybody else has to do it. And we don't typically have to because we've done it before, but thought I would give it a time this week sometime. So I'm trying to get ready and get my shoulders ready, carrying weight. Even though, boy, the last time we were in Burma, it was amazing. From February, mostly February. I mean, we were there longer, but just at the camp. It felt like such a healthy place to be. I was really, content in a way, even though it's hard work. Like going from one end of the camp to the other is down this kind of hill, this trail down a hill and across the bridge and up the other trail and back and forth. And I guess it's not unlike walking across a college campus or something like that with hills and trails. But it's healthy. You need to do that to get things. Or if I needed to go to the market to buy something, I had to go about 35-minute, I guess maybe a 45-minute walk or like a 30-minute run to get there. Maybe I'm shortening that. But anyway, that's if you wanted to buy eggs or dry goods or like powdered milk. Otherwise, the other things were maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, but still you had to go someplace on foot to get it. So it's pretty healthy living out there. And anyway, so good to get ready for that. And boy, I started thinking about all the things that it takes to get ready for this trip. If we go in a few weeks, all the way from food supplies that I could maybe bring in. I'm thinking about dried fish kind of things because the shops are closed. Any kind of a commerce that was going on there before is not happening anymore because people have run away. They're too afraid because of the airstrikes. So it used to be you could get so much. This up to last year, boy, there was so much stuff you could get there. Flour, even yeast and baking powder and salt and sugar and all those good things. And so now people basically have rice and what they grow. They don't even have enough rice, really. What you grow on your property is what you can eat. So we have to bring in all this stuff, and we're not growing anything, so we have to buy it, whether it's protein, meat, or eggs, or vegetables. We have to buy it since we don't have a garden at our house, because typically everybody has their own garden. I mean, it seems so obvious when you think about farm times and that kind of thing. And if you don't have a garden, like, what's your plan? So heavens, there's no shops that sell those kinds of things, so I have to think ahead a little bit. Thankfully, thanks to Yoke, we can get dried eggs, dried egg whites and dried eggs, and I can try to send in some other stuff. But the protein is always a little tricky because we can buy meat, like a cow or a pig or something like that, but not all the time. And so you have to kind of content yourself with less protein than usual, which is why it's kind of a smaller size group out there anyway. I mean, in general, we're not big hulky Americans. But then fish, you can get dried fish, tuna. Anyway, that's what I was thinking this morning. And then I started thinking about school. Oh my gosh, should I do? Should I scan things and put them on an iPad or just my phone? But power is a big issue. It's rainy season, so there may not be as much power. And then internet, I was kind of heavily dependent on the internet last time in a way, even though I didn't use it that much because the girls used it most all the time. And we couldn't get on if they were on. So paper pencil stuff works great. So I carry that in my backpack, Peter's backpack. And then the school and the kids and project, and then like ministry, Good Life Club. What should I do? What should I teach? All these kids have run away from their homes and they are afraid, and ooh, a new season in their life. What kind of encouragement should I bring? So, my hour and a half walk today produced all those new questions for a to-do list. Yikes! In addition to the to-do list at home, which is just finishing cleaning up that schoolroom, which it basically is clean. Now I just have piles of papers in my bedroom that are supposed to be very sentimental, nostalgic things. But what else? Oh, I went to Home Pro yesterday, and I think I found this really simple clothes hanging thing I'm going to get, because we don't really want... I actually got a chair for Dave. A comfy chair, like the rattan one used to be in the living room, this kind of comfy rattan thing with a stool. Well, it was only 50 million years old, so it died. And there was nothing there for a while. And although the cast iron furniture is really convenient and weatherproof, it's not super comfortable. Because I intended to have lots of pillows that you would put away and take out, but since we're not here, that's kind of a hassle. It doesn't happen, so they're just kind of uncomfortable places to sit. So somebody was giving away furniture. Dave helped move a friend's house, and he came home with this vinyl brown couch, like one of those things you see in a converted garage to a playroom kind of things. I mean, comfortable, yes, it was very comfortable, but did it fit in my living room? No, not really. He knew that too. He said, it doesn't really look right here, does it? It should go downstairs. That's a place, you know. But we already have couches downstairs. So we left it there, because, I mean, we're all about just functionality, just make it happen. So anyway, then we had guests at our guest house just now that are important, need to be working on stuff. Representatives of new government in Burma, and I decided to give them the couch so they could have something nice to sit on. Yep, because then I was thinking I'm going to buy a new chair. So yesterday I just got a new rattan chair out there. It'll be ready on the 5th. I ordered it. Yeah. And so where was I going with all that? Projects, I guess. Just constant projects, here, there, and the other. But anyway, to start the day, let's listen to Amy Carmichael, see what she has to say. This is chapter 23, and it's called A Light Shined in the Cell. And the poem starts like this. Home of our hearts, lest we forget what our redemption meant to thee. Let our most reverent thoughts be set upon thy Calvary. When we suffer, turn and toss, and seek for ease, and seek again. But thou upon thy bitter cross wast firmly fixed in pain. And in our night star clusters shine, flowers comfort us, and joy of song. No star, no flower, no song was thine, but darkness 3 hours long. We in our lesser mystery of lingering ill and winged death would fain see clear, but could we see what need would be for faith? O Lord beloved, thy Calvary stills all our questions. Come, O come, where children wandering wearily have not yet found their home. This is about strength in difficulty. I'm going to read it one more time. Home of our hearts, lest we forget what our redemption meant to thee. Let our most reverent thoughts be set upon thy Calvary. Gosh, the Calvary. Suffering, it's being alone or feeling like you're alone, but gosh, huge purpose. Huge purpose. Okay. We, when we suffer, turn and toss, and seek for ease, and seek again. But thou upon thy bitter cross was firmly fixed in pain. And in our night star clusters shine, flowers comfort us, and joy of song. No star, no flower, no song was thine, but darkness 3 hours long. We, in our lesser mystery of lingering ill and winged death, would fain see clear, but could we see what need would be for faith? O Lord beloved, thy Calvary stills all our questions. Come, O come, where children wandering wearily have not yet found their home. Seeking for home. Seeking for home. We all need a home. We all need to belong somewhere, belong with people, belong in a group, have purpose, and know where we came from and where we're going. Amen. Children, you know that song, Children of the Heavenly Father? It's a good hymn. Okay. All right, and a light shined in the cell. How good it would be to leave it at that and tell no more. But truth is sacred. There's a Tamil word for insincerity, which means literally showing brass for gold. Shishak, king of Egypt, took away the shields of gold which Solomon had made. Instead of these, Rehoboam made shields of brass. The story illustrates that Tamil word. The Lord save this book from anything of that sort. Sometimes those in whom we place a perfect confidence crash at the moment of utmost need, and the hopes of years and works of years appear to be swept away like a straw before a flood. And we have had both men and women who, after running well, took the turning in the roads that leads to compromise and entanglement. We have seen an upright Hindu hindered by one who should have helped him, till any desire he might have had to consider the heavenly master of such a servant vanished, and he said in effect, better to be a Hindu than that sort of Christian. And yet that Christian man had once been a witness and a winner of souls. We have seen some on whom all that love can offer had been poured, shrink at the first touch of the offense of the cross, and, in common with all who know what such wounds can be, we have learned to feel them first as his whose love still follows those who deny him. But truly and exultantly we can say it, we have seen what love can do. These in whom we can have perfect confidence, in whom the slightest flaw of truth is inconceivable. These who set no limits, saying, thus far and no further will I follow my Lord crucified. They are our joy and crown. There are days in this work when it is as though black seas swept over us. There are evil things which are so common in this land that no one is shocked by them. The reaction is not shame, but a smile. An older person will refer to detestable sins using a casual word which may mean play. Many a child is born into a heritage which must be harder to triumph over than we can imagine. Certainly it is so with some whom we have known. Given ancestors who belong to one of the secret phallic cults as old as the East, must not there be a terrible hellward pull day by day, night by night? Education is utterly impotent before that pull. Nothing is strong enough to counter it but the powers of Calvary. We have seen those mighty powers triumph. Once in a very dark hour, when an uprush of these black seas appalled us, such a horror of sin as seen by the holy God was wrought in the convicted soul of one who had sinned that it was just almost more than could be borne. Several were sharing the matter in prayer, of whom one had lately joined us. The date is later than this chapter, but dates are of no account in the things of the Spirit. And, much concerned, for who could see unmoved a tall white flower bent down on its stalk still touches very slime? We asked, are you sorry you came? There was no answer then, only a smile, but an hour later the answer was given on half a sheet of notepaper. We have sung it many times on our knees since that night. O God of peace, strong is the enemy, but thou art nigh, and he must fall beneath our feet because of Calvary. Give us calm confidence of victory, Lord of the fight, and when the enemy comes like a flood, put him to flight. Mighty the weapons of warfare are through thee alone. O lead us to the battle, captain us, most mighty one. And the God of peace did captain us. The Lord wrought a great victory that day, and the captain for whom that fight was fought with the powers of darkness was set free to become a force for good among us. For thou, O God, hast a mighty arm. Strong is thy hand, and high is thy right hand, and thou art the glory of our strength. All who understand spiritual conflicts such as this, and what it means to hold a long line on the edge of the enemy's country, will know what the loss of even one in that thin line can be. There was one among our Indian sisters who was able, because of certain gifts of insight and character and knowledge of Hindu ways of thought, to succor souls caught in these black seas. In her Bible I find this: "The man who has no experience in the dark has no secret to communicate in the light." Perhaps these words will show to the discerning what Arulai had to give, and why we all felt that she was indeed impossible to spare. She had never been strong, and shortly before the Sisters of the Common Life came into being, to give her the best chance of health that we could, we sent her in the hot weather to the Friends in the Hills. She returned home far advanced in nephritis. There came a day, it was our prayer day, but every day was a prayer day then, when, as I left her for an hour's wrestle with the fear that was now overshadowing us, a desperate kind of comfort came in the thought that she, at least, would never have to drink of this cup. The endurance of the pang, the rending of flesh from flesh, would never be asked of her, and somehow that did help. But we had to go farther than that. All that day she had been delirious, and she was still unconscious when I returned to the little side room where one or the other of us was with her night and day. And night, when all was quiet, and when all human hope had fled, he to whom belonged the issues from death came into the house and took her by the hand and called, saying, "Maid, arise." But before this happened there had been time for a question and an answer. And again, one instinctively turns to familiar words, because they tell so much better than mine could what I want to show. And behold, there stood a man over against him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went unto him and said to him, "Art thou for us or for our adversaries? Lord, if thou dost take her, how can the work go on?" Drive that question back to its root, and how does it differ from Joshua's? And he said, "Nay, but as captain of the Lord of the host am I now come." And Joshua fell on his face to the earth, and did worship, and said unto him, "What saith my Lord unto his servant?" And the captain of the Lord's host said unto Joshua, Loose thy shoe from off thy foot, for the place whereon thou standest is holy." And he did so, and we did so too. Such an experience does not leave any who share it just where they were before. They may not be able to put their gains into words, but something has been gained. The precious things put forth by the moon, the chief things of the ancient mountains are theirs, and they can never lose them. But sometimes words can be found that sum up these gains, and for us there are 3 words which will be forever the bright because of that darkness. These words are good, acceptable, perfect. The words learned off by heart by Ponnamal's bedside. It was not the first time they had come in connection with the same beloved child. There was a day in 1910 when the specialist who examined the throat trouble, which had stopped the evangelistic work in which her soul delighted, diagnosed it as tuberculosis, and for 7 years she was silenced. On the day when what then appeared like a sentence of death was pronounced, I faced it out alone. No word of man or woman could reach that hurt. But there is a word that is piercing, even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit, and it heals even as it pierces, that ye may prove what is the good and acceptable and perfect will of God. That was the piercing word. And in Tamil, acceptable is rendered by a word meaning lovable. This word leads on through the acceptance, which is peace, to something else, to somewhere else. Things temporal are transparent in that air, but the things that are eternal are manifest there. In ways like this, in dealings which again and again touch the key people of our work, those precious ones who could never be replaced, we were taught that the disposal of his forces is wholly in the hands of our commander-in-chief, and it was in times like this that our nights became light about us. Years later, in an hour of need, the everlasting Comforter came through the Septuagint version of Psalm 118. His soul, Joseph's, entered into iron. It was not that others put him in irons, though they did, they hurt his feet with fetters. It was that he himself acquiesced in, willingly walked into the unexplained trial of God's dealings with him. His soul entered whole and entire in its resolve to obey God into cruel torture, is Kay's note on that great matter. But what fathomless depths it must have held for our Lord Jesus when he set his face steadfastly to go to Jerusalem, Gethsemane, Calvary, and certain it is that whatever way of pain may open before any one of us, we find as we walk in the marks of our dear Lord's footsteps leading on. He walked alone on that road so that we need never walk alone. No star, no flower, no song was thine, but darkness 3 hours long. He was hard on himself, but there is no hardness in his ways with us, and the dimmest pages in our story shine as we look back on them. We saw this once in parable. Some of us had gone on to the coast to try to get rid of persistent fever, and one night we bathed deliciously in a little bay between dark rocks. The night was moonless and starless, and the sea, except where it broke in ripples or waves, was as dark as sea can ever be. But when we came out of that water, we were covered from head to foot in phosphorescent light. And when we sat down on the wet sand and dug our hands into it, diamonds ran between our fingers. There are lights that watch an occasion to appear. Such are the lights of strong consolation that have come when all was dark, whether because of some black trouble like the black sea of sin, or because of threatened harm or loss to that which is so much dearer to us than ourselves. For truly the love of the Lord, whose brightness is as the light, who himself is light, passeth all things for illumination. And if I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, even the night shall be light about me. Light, there is something in the word that is not of earth. On a day when it brought us the very tenderness of God, a cable came from Australia, and a light shined in the cell. The words turned to song, such simple song that it would not be written here if it were not that so often very simple, almost infantile things carry little cups of comfort. And a light shined in the cell, and there was not any wall, and there was no dark at all, only thou, Emmanuel. Light of love shined in the cell, turned to gold the iron bars, open windows to the stars. Peace stood there as a sentinel. Dearest Lord, how can it be that thou art so kind to me? Love is shining in my cell, Jesus, my Emmanuel. So, yeah, you're never alone. And there are some dark nights, I'm sure, when no matter how many people have come to love and be and share and encourage you, you're still alone. And hopefully this is encouraging you that you're not alone. Yep, not. And the plans that we don't understand are still for good. Yep. And so I'm thankful for this book because it is helping me to hold on to the things that I truly believe deep down. That God's goodness does reign. And, gosh, if we don't hang on to the eternal things, we are lost. So, hanging on with you in that boat, in the water with you, and, gosh, hoping those phosphorescents are somehow there for you in your mind's eye. And there's light in the darkness. So, love you so much. Okay.